Well, here it is, another edition of It's All Good with me, Lucas, and with my co-host, Dr. E, who, by the way, it's been a minute since we've done a podcast, and we feel like it's time for some more good things in the world to come about. How are you today, Dr. E?
I'm doing great. I woke up to the quote that sits in the gym that says, potential unexpressed turns to pain. So I get to look at that a lot. I like that quote. It makes me realize that we all have tremendous amount of potential, and if we're not doing things every day to reach it, a lot of times we feel disheartened or we're just not as excited. And as we start to realize our potential, life becomes pretty great.
So let's go back to the word pain. Can anything good come out of pain?
I think most everything can. Most everything good can come out of pain, because pain is sort of a driver, but it's part of the experience of growth. And so pain, we just have to start to learn to embrace it, as opposed to fear pain or fear a hypothetical pain that really never exists. Most of the pains we think are going to happen never happen, but the true pains aren't as bad as we thought. And as we learn to embrace those, good friend of mine always talks about obstacles make me stronger, and post-traumatic growth syndrome. We always hear about post-traumatic growth. And people a lot of times go through a bad experience, but there's a percentage of people that go through traumas and come out better for it, and we have to sort of embrace that mindset.
It's kind of in life, I was thinking about my life and the different times where I really felt pain. And when you do feel that pain, or at least when I felt that pain, the one thing that came to my mind was there's a reason that I'm going through this, and what's that reason? And so I just would search my mind and figure out how to, if it was the pain that was like I didn't want to do anymore or have to go through anymore, I would try to figure out what do I have to do in my life to avoid this pain? What changes do I have to make? And just like you just said. So when you said that sparked a thing for me, because I remember I've learned from the painful experiences in my life to try to avoid that. And it's funny, if you do make those changes, you do avoid those situations that gave you pain in the previously.
Yeah, and we love sports. We always talk about sports, and we can highlight athletes that were incredibly well at playing through pain or playing injured. You think of some of the historical games back to one of the Celtics championships years ago, where you have guys coming out that can barely walk. The Knicks, I remember years ago, I can't remember the player's name, where he's basically dragging a leg. But in life, I was asked the other day what playing injured is, and didn't really know. And he said, that's life. We've got to learn to play injured. Playing injured is part of the game, and the challenge is what we call emotional stability, or emotional the ability to harness the emotions to get up very quickly. And we have challenges with emotions that a lot of people look over. We always know that when things go really bad, it's hard to get up and it's hard to stay focused. But right. The other thing happens when things go really good. When we have really great days, we've got to be careful, because the next day, for some reason, either we're resting on our laurels or we don't think we have to do much. Those are the days we have to be really careful too, because we can drop back down pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. So last night, I had some downtime, and as I was reading and doing stuff in the background, the movie What About Bob was on. And I crack up every time I watch What About Bob with Bill Murray. But you think about the concept in that movie is that he needs somebody to help him get through his painful situations of just having everyday life, walking and going into, buildings and all the different things that he has to do. But there is a concept I was thinking about as I was watching that, was how Bob treated everybody that he came in contact with, and the opposite of Dr. Marvin, and how he would try to get rid of him and not be mean to him, but push him away. And Bob was just as nice as he could be to every single person that he talked to. And so I was watching that, I never really, I've seen that movie, hundreds of times, but there was a principle in that movie that I thought it was treating people and how you treat people and how he treated people and how everybody gravitated to him by the way that he treated them. And everybody loved him except for Dr. Marvin. Of course, Dr. Marvin's attitude was, I'm on vacation, leave me alone. This is my time. I got my book coming out. I got this, I got that. You're going to embarrass me. You're going to ruin. So I just, as I was watching that movie last night, it's never hit me before. I was like, man, if you just see the two different attitudes in this movie and the way that people, like his family all got mad at him. Dr. Marvin's family got mad at him for being mean and all that stuff. I just thought, there's a way to treat people, and it will help you in your life if you take those concepts of looking out for people and being kind to people. And what do you think about that?
I love Bob. That's one of our favorite movies. There's a few movies that capture this part of us that sometimes we're afraid to be in life. The spotlight's on us a lot, especially now with social media and everywhere you go. And Bob is a character that is really the best within us, and yet a lot of times it's not the cool image, and it's not the image that we always want to portray. But it's the right one. It's the one that is pretty open. It's pretty transparent. We fear transparency a lot because we look around. I know I do a lot, and we compare what our reality is to our perceived reality, and sometimes we value or we gain confidence or we gain goodness in ourselves by how we think we're doing compared to other people. And most of the time that is such a flawed reality because we put together the greatest traits of everybody we see, and then we compare ourselves to a superhuman. And so Bob's great because he's humble. The ego is not involved in Bob whatsoever. And you can just tell it's genuinely looking after other people. Everything he did during that movie, as funny as it was he noticed others. I have a great coach that always talks about one of the most important things we can do is notice other people. Notice what's going on in their world. Most of the time we're so busy thinking about our world that we can't even notice what's important to our spouse. We don't even notice things that are important to our children. Last Sunday we had a activity. We picked up a couple books called Play, and I don't know the author, but it's an interactive book where you think back to your childhood and you think about what made you happy. What were some of the greatest things you did? And so we would write these down, and then you would then the question was asked, why did you like to do these things? And I had my daughter and my wife, and I've been married for 30 years. I thought I knew my wife very well. But there were a couple things there that I'm thinking, my goodness, 30 years and I didn't know that about you. And once again, it's that selfish behavior of not noticing others. And Bob noticed others the entire movie, and he took an interest in what interested them or an area that they needed help with, and he stepped in, even with the little boy, helping him swim. And also he understood the fears. Once somebody knows you understand them, because he's deathly afraid of water too, you automatically have a connection with that person because they say, he knows or she knows what I'm feeling like. I trust you more because it's not a fake, oh, I know what you're going through. And we have no idea what some people are going through. We just say that to sort of act empathetic.
Now, I know you're a doctor in Tucson and you have patients that come see you. Have you ever had to deal with a Bob that came in that needed extra attention and extra care and extra help and those kinds of things?
Yeah, I've had a lot of Bobs or Marys that are very similar. There are so many people out there. Yeah, I have found, and when they come into a physician's office, the advantage a physician has is we walk around, all of us do, in our castles with what I think are a moat around us and a fence and a drawbridge, and we just don't let people in. And you might have somebody that you know casually, and it may take you 3 or 4 years for them to open the drawbridge and start to let you in. They may have been hurt in the past. They may have had bad experiences. But magically, when they sit in the chair across from a physician, for some reason, I think trust, they just think, I can tell this person whatever I need to. I will see walls come down, doors open, that normally might take a year or two. So very personal information comes out very quickly. And it's a position that, you got to be very careful because they're very vulnerable. But you can see that the one thing people that walk around all around us day and night need is they need more love. They need more understanding. That you can tell that there's not many people in their lives that really listen to them ever. And so this is a platform for them. And we've had a number of great experiences to where we've seen people open up and we've seen lives change, not even in a physical situation, but more understanding that, people care about them and love them and they start to make some changes in their life.
So last night I went to go get my hair cut, and I was having a conversation with the girl that cut your hair, because I think if you walk into any haircut place, I think that the hairstylists are trained to try to talk to you and ask you how your day is, and I think that's the new style now. So we started chatting about, she started telling me about other clients and what other clients had come in to say, and I feel like maybe like doctors, bartenders, hairstylists, for some reason, people feel more apt to talk to them and tell them more personal things. And she was telling me about a client who had come in and talked about that her daughter and her fiance ended up running off together. And I said, well, what did you say? I mean, if you're not equipped to handle that, what do you do? And she just said that people tell her the craziest things, and she doesn't really know how to respond to a lot of that. And, doing 30 years of radio, I've had a chance to talk to, thousands of radio listeners call my show and having a chance to talk to. And a lot of people like to tell me things too. And I think we're missing the boat when it comes to noticing people, that there's so many people in our world that are not happy or have things going on in their lives that they need help with, but they don't know how to ask for help. And I think that somehow we got to figure out a way, maybe Dr. E, you can help us with this, but how do we notice the average person that's in our life, maybe at work or at church or in our friend group or maybe in our neighborhoods, that how do we notice and how do we figure out who needs our help and how to help them? I mean, there's got to be some kind of method or way to do that, because I feel like there's so many people that have a lot of issues that most of us, by just talking to them or knowing what to do or how to help them, could save a lot of people from misery.
Yeah, we have hair people that come in and they call themselves hairapist, because I think your hairdresser or your barber is a therapist to some extent. That's a place people tend to open up. One of the early activities that I was given to do that just sort of gives you an awareness, Dave Blanchard, a coach and a good friend of mine, he talked about a game they play, and I think we talked about this in a video cast before, red light, green light, and just to get awareness. So for the next week, just do it for a day if you want. He says you want to notice what your mind thinks the minute you see someone or something, and it can be even commercials. So as a person comes on the screen, what is the thought in your mind? We're always judging people, whether we think we are or we aren't. We're forming opinions very quickly. So the mindset of a red light, meaning a negative thought. So if I see somebody that comes on my TV or somebody that's walking at Disneyland, we were there a couple weeks ago, and I'll sit and watch people, is the first thought too fat, too skinny, too tall, too short, too this, too that? What is that instant judgment that we have, that evaluation? Is it negative or is it positive? And I know the first time I did this, I was almost a little scared of how negative it was. And I don't know if that's a process of trying to validate who we are, but when we have that mindset right off the bat when we see someone, that does not help at all, because now science has confirmed that we have these mirror neurons, and these are sort of BS detectors, lie detectors that we send out. So if I'm standing in front of somebody and I'm thinking pretty negative about them, and yet my mouth is trying to appease them and I'm putting on a show, they can feel the real intent. You get around people sometimes that you're just like, that weird feeling, or that's your mirror neurons. They are actually capturing that person's energy or that person's thinking about you. And now we can confirm that when people come in rooms, and they've done a lot of studies. Dogs do this. I mean, my dad used to tell me, you can't fool children and dogs. They have that innate ability to know, who's good or bad. So if we start with ourselves, it always starts with self-evaluation to see how bad we are. Or maybe some people see green lights all day. I've done this a lot, and I've had people do it, and they're like, there's so much red. But just the beginning of that, so you can say, okay, that's not who they are. They're probably this. You have to start to argue with that consistent amount of negativity that a lot of times we think of. And it's just to validate ourselves. It's just to make ourselves feel better, especially in the sports world. Growing up in sports, somebody wins and somebody loses, mostly in this country. We don't play a lot of soccer. So you don't leave the game thinking you won when you got beat. And so you're upset. So everything's a game to us somewhat. And that makes it a challenge, because that means somebody's a clear winner and somebody's a clear loser. And sometimes when we evaluate people, we try to put them in that, it's an all in or all out type of a scenario.
So that's a good point to make. And I'll take that in this week and try the red light, green light game and see where I lie on that. So let's talk about this week coming up. People that are listening, what's a good exercise that people can do to enhance their life, or to make them feel better, or help them do better? This podcast is about, it's all good. We want good things to happen to people. And you and I have gone through a lot of things in life where you've helped me. You've helped me lose 50 pounds. You've helped me balance my life out with mental, spiritual, and physical goals. What can we talk about today? What's a good principle that we can talk about that can help people?
I think it always needs to start with understanding. Each person has to understand that they have tremendous potential. There are so many people that have no hope. They don't believe that they can do much because maybe they've been told they can't do much since they were, born, since they can remember. Maybe life has kicked them around so much that they don't have even the slightest hope that things can get better.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, they just have to understand that everybody, for the most part, DNA does not make a whole lot of difference when it comes to what we're going to accomplish in life. They need to get back to the basis of having hope, first of all, in themselves, and sort of loving themselves, as selfish as it sounds. It's really difficult to love someone else if we can't love ourselves. I have a big placard that I'm looking at right now that sits above my in my office, and it says a simple statement. It says, "I choose me." And then it has my birthday on there, because we leave the day every day going to work or doing whatever, and most of the time we don't choose me because we want to be him or we want to be her, or we're jealous that we're not whoever it is. We will never be able to be the person for other people.
The one thing that came to my mind when you were saying all that is something a principle that you and I started talking about a few weeks ago, and that is visualizing, and that is taking time out of your day. I was trying to have a conversation with my son the other day, who's in Arizona. He's 19, about managing his time during the day. And you taught me this years ago about, so you got 24 hours in a day. You sleep, let's say it's 8 hours, and then you have the rest of the time to break up. What are you going to do with your day? And a lot of us get up, go to work, come home from work, sit on the couch, eat and watch TV, and go to bed. And that happens to a lot of people. And I was talking to Zach, my son, about changing up. Make sure that you have a plan every day. How many hours even if you do want to watch TV, how many hours are you going to watch it? What's your plan? And so, throughout the day, I said, well, make time to work out, make time to pray, make time to do something that's going to help your mental edge. I said, plan things out. But I said, something that you and I talked about is like, a lot of us don't take time to get away from radio, TV, music. We'll go into a quiet room or something for about 30 minutes and just let your brain take over. And just whatever you think about, you think about. And if you want to visualize something, you said, like you said, everybody's got potential and everybody's got dreams. Everybody wants to be somebody. Everybody wants to do something. And a lot of times, like you said, we don't think we're good enough. Well, I can never do that. I'm just not built for that. That if you take that time, that 30 minutes to let your brain take over, and your brain's super powerful, that those kinds of things, your brain is connected to your spirit. And I just feel like, when you do those things, that you connect with something that is going to help you do the things that you want to do. And they'll give you ideas. And sometimes you think, are my ideas crazy or not? But those ideas pop in your head for a reason. I don't know how to explain that. Can you help me with that?
I think the better us, the best us, the optimus us, or as Brian Johnson says, to reach our arete, the highest within us, we have to get into those states. We're so much being dictated by what's put in front of us. We're told who we are. We're told what we can become. And also, when we have these big aspirations, we have a dream board or we have a vision. Say somebody takes the chance because they're afraid to even dream, and they dream of being something much bigger. And then you have a book like The Secret that came out years ago that says, just think about it, sit in your chair all day and think about it, and it's magically going to appear. And it's great to visualize it, but it doesn't appear without work. We're basically not following the laws that need to happen. But what people need to do is say, this is what I want, and not be afraid to line themselves up and say, this is where I am, and contrast the difference so they know, hey, I want this. I want it bad enough, but I'm here. And we also have this difficulty because you and I can sit down in 2 hours and we can watch Rocky go from a bum on the street cutting meat up. He trains to be the world champion in 5 minutes of the movie. So now we think that I can become a conditioned athlete in 5 minutes, even though we know it's foolish, but our brain, and this is what we do. We watch movies and then we get frustrated when 2 weeks after we started a program, we're not anywhere near Rocky, because in 2 hours I watch Rocky go from here to here. And it sounds foolish and stupid, but we are incredibly impatient on accomplishing the dream because our brain thinks it should happen much faster.
That makes a lot of sense, because we're in the world of technology. We're in the world of, I want this now. Think about, like, if you try to click on a website and it's taken like 3 or 4 seconds to try to download, you X out of it and redo it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of things. We don't even literally talk on the phone anymore. Everybody just texts back and forth. So I think as the world keeps going further to the future, the patience thing is going to keep getting less and less and less and less. I mean, we're a high demand right now world. And so I think that also takes a spot. When I was talking to my son, who's 19, generation, what do they call it? Generation Y?
Yes, or Generation X. Do they say X or Y now? I know it's one of those two.
Yeah, because I called him a millennial. He's like, Dad, I'm not a millennial. They're like in their 30s and late 20s and 30s.
I think you and I are millennials.
I wish I was a millennial. Anyways, so what I was telling him about, spend 30 minutes a day away from everybody and let your brain just start thinking and just let your brain go. And sometimes you're going to feel like it's a waste of time that your brain didn't do anything. And other times your brain's going to just keep on a roll, and you're going to start getting a paper and pen and you're going to just start writing things down. And I said, the more times you do that, you let your brain do that, it will help you out. But I think they just have a hard time getting to that point because there's no patience anymore. They got to have it right then and right now. And I don't know how to get out of that, or how to tell them to just let it happen, because I don't know how do you untrain something that you grew up trained to do.
It's in Cal Newport. Cal Newport has written some great books. He just wrote, his recent book is Digital Minimalism. And Cal is an MIT graduate. He is a professor in computer science, I believe, at one of the back east schools. He's just a brilliant guy. And he spends a lot of time talking about solitude. And his key is, just like you said, he says, we have the answers to most of the dilemmas and most of the problems that may hit us or challenges. We have the formula on how to build that company, but that has to happen in solitude. And he is so against technology. And this is a guy who was at MIT, who is in the computer industry, because he says it creates such a distraction and it takes away from our natural genius. So his guidance is we've got to physically turn off all notifications. There's no reason you have to have notification. He has a quote in one of his books that says the common worker in America that is sitting at their computer, when an email hits that computer, it is clicked and answered within 7 seconds. About 70% of those. This is all the people you're paying to work in your offices. And he also says this happens all day long, and it will take your mind. It's called attention residue. So if I'm stuck on a project and boom, that email hits and it dings, and I move over and click it and it's useless email, I have an attention residue from that email that does not allow me to get back on task for sometimes 5 to 20 minutes. And he goes through this scenario and says we're getting about an hour a day from our workers because of how many times they're clicking on emails that don't matter. But the brain, just like in a slot machine, it's random. It's like a random reward, we call it. You pull a slot machine once, you know it's probably not going to hit, but maybe every 30 times it does. When it does hit, we get this endorphin. We get this adrenaline rush. We feel great. Emails are the same way. It's the same scenario. The brain is saying, oh, this might be a good one. This might be a good one. So it goes and clicks them. So we need to get rid of those. We need to have times during the day that we click on emails and say, at lunch break, I'm going to check and go through them. And then I'm not going to do it till after work. We've got to reserve time for our genius and shut those things off, especially in the morning. If we're checking email, the first thing we do when we get up are texts and letting others decide our emotions of that day, then we're beginning the day really poorly. So it's managing the technology, and we'll start to have that solitude. Just turn things off and spend 10 minutes thinking, and you'll be amazed at some of the answers you already have.
Okay, so the two things that I'm coming away with this talk is that I want to look for people that need help, because there's a lot of people out there, and keep my eyes open and know that there's people out there that aren't going to ask for help. But I think the more that we just are paying attention to people and kind of be like Bob and are kind to people and talk to people, then things will surface to where you can actually help people. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is I think I'm going to take more time on letting my brain work and use my brain instead of coming home, sitting on the couch, watching TV and basically wasting my life away, to where you can go into a room and for 30 minutes, I'm just going to let my brain take over, take a paper and pen and just write down thoughts that come to my mind. And also have something that I want to accomplish, and just start thinking about how can I accomplish that and let my brain take over. So at the end of next week, I can either help a few people, be kind to a few people, and also help me with my own personal goals in life to be able to achieve that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you look at those 2 points, you can simplify the first one, just notice others. When you're walking around, you do a great job of this. I think some of us have a natural empathy. We want the cashier at Walmart or wherever to smile. And we notice that she's not. And so whether it's having conversation or joking with her, notice others. Not even if you do much other than just notice them. Notice what's important to them. And even the homeless person on the street, they interviewed homeless people. And a lot of the people said, it didn't bother me so much that they didn't give me money. They didn't even look at me. And I think that just noticing others, and you start in your own house, notice your spouse, notice what's frustrating, what's important. And instead of being so concerned on what we do, notice those people. And then the other one is I think a lot of us are going to have to schedule it. You're going to have to schedule solitude. As crazy as it sounds in this world, we get so busy that we really don't need to be busy on stuff. But I would schedule it in your week. For a lot of people, don't schedule 30 minutes. And Atomic Habits, a great book. He says, if you can't meditate for 1 minute, don't go out and set a goal this week to meditate 30 minutes a day because you just read a story about somebody. Set a goal for 2 minutes and then do that for a week. And then you go, okay, I can do 2. Now I can do 3. So for a lot of people, it's like, set 5 minutes up. Go set 5 minutes up. sometime today to take a walk around your house with nothing. Leave your phone in the house. I promise in 5 minutes, there's not going to be an emergency. Your phone does not need your attention in 5 minutes, but you might have to schedule it.
Love it. Well, thanks again for the advice and the input. I'm looking forward to this week, and hopefully people who are listening can also take part of this. And I think together, as we try to help ourselves and help other people, that will make our world a better place to live in. And we'll be doing good for people in our world, including doing good for ourselves. And I think we all deserve to have good things happen to us. So anything else? Last words?
I just think I have quotes all over my office, my gym, and everything. I'm looking around to see one of my favorite. The joy of the journey is in the ride. We've just got to learn to enjoy right now, because we don't know if tomorrow will happen. And you and I both know that when we set great goals and we achieve those, we get to that and we're like, is this it? And we realize the fun was in the ride. So we've got to learn to enjoy the journey today. Find something right now that you can enjoy. There's something great in your life right now, as bad as things may be. That journey of life, the joy needs to be now, because that's really all we have. We don't know if we have tomorrow, and yesterday's gone.
All right, that is it for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you again next week. The podcast is called It's All Good. Make sure you share it with your friends, and we can all change the world together. See ya.